Hello, it's me Meg, and as you can see, I am standing in a rather large room, which is none other than Peach's castle from Super Mario Odyssey. Let's take a look at how this enchanted palace was built in Minecraft. I'm going to start this build with a stained glass window on the front of the castle. Because this is such an intricate part of the castle, I wanted it to have the most detail possible, and then I can build the rest of the castle based from the size of this window. To make the window even more detailed, I had 2 layers of the stained glass, with 1 layer of air in the middle. The window is complete, now it's time to start building the castle. And we're going to start with the framing around the window. It doesn't have a whole lot of detail here, all this has is a simple gabled roof with a couple little towers on the ends. I have my 2 towers done, let's go ahead and add the balcony. I wanted this to have a lot of detail to help accentuate this front area of the castle, which is the most important part. After coming up with a design I liked, all I had to do was copy and paste it over. I'm going to be doing that a lot throughout this build, and it was a lot easier since the castle is symmetrical to do so. The next part I'm going to work on is the doorway of the castle. And as you can see, I'm not too concerned about right now where my castle is located. I'm going to be shifting things around in a moment, but right now it's going to be floating here in the air. The doorway is quite large because this castle is not being created to scale, but rather to get as much detail as I can into it. It's really hard to match the exact color on Peach's castle. I went ahead and used stone brick for the upper portion of the castle, and end stone for the lower portions, as well as for accent colors on the towers. Continuing the wall over, we have a couple windows, and then our large tower on the corner. This corner tower is basically a larger version of the 3rd tower that we made. Once I have the tower complete, I'm going to continue working on the walls, and at this point I do have the castle at the proper height. I have to make sure I have room for the moat that will go around the castle, which is why it is elevated like it is. After some final touch-ups with the spire, making sure it's the proper size, all I have to do is copy and paste these changes over to the other side. These towers are not finished yet, but it does help me get an idea of what the castle is looking like. All I have to do then is copy and paste that front tower and flip it to create that back corner tower, and then I can add in the windows on the walls. Once I have this half of the castle done, all I have to do is copy and paste it over to the other side, and just like that we have all of the walls done. Super easy. Now it's time to work on the center tower, which is the largest tower of them all. I'm not sure where the base will need to be, but we can always adjust that later. Because this tower is so big, I worked on 1/4 of it first, and then taking that section that I did do, just rotated it 3 times to get the completed look. It's a good thing this castle isn't any larger because that was just a few blocks shy of the block limit when I made this tower. This castle's really starting to come together and is actually looking like Peach's castle. The next step is to add the roof. Like all of the other parts of the castle, I'm only going to do half of the roof now, and then I'll flip it to the other side later. The roof has a lot of complex shapes, but I was finally able to get it to look semi-decent so that I could flip it over to the other side. You might think the castle looks like it's pretty much done, but there's still a lot of work to go. Let's move on to the inside. I'm pretty sure the real interior in the game doesn't exactly match the outside of the castle. I only know that because I tried building it and it wasn't matching up. All that to say, the interior isn't going to look exactly like it does in the game. I did have to make a few adjustments for it to fit within the shell of this castle. I used all sorts of blocks for the inside, including lots of concrete and clay and quartz, and even some end rods for the stair railing. The inside has a much larger amount of detail than the outside did, which is probably why it took me a little bit longer to make. Once I finished the railing, I added all of the designs to the windows, adding the lower part of the ceiling, and then adding columns between the windows. The entryway of the castle also looks a little bit different from the game, but it was as close as I could get it with the amount of space that I had available. The only thing left to do now is the center part of the ceiling. This part of the ceiling doesn't look much like the ceiling in the game, only because I was very restricted with the way the roof was shaped. So I had to kind of make it up and make it just look like it fit. Once I add the final details of the throne, banners, and plants, the inside is complete. Just a few more things to touch up on the outside, starting with the arched bridge out front. The next step is to figure out where the moat will go and to outline this shape around the castle. I'm going to use granite to create a wall around the entire castle, and then I'll just fill in the land and fill up the moat with water later. Next, I needed to make the land as high as the bridge, so I started adding large blocks of land all around. Then filling in the gaps between those land chunks and the walls a little bit at a time. The next task was to smooth out the edges of the land to become a hill. And then to fill in the moat, all I had to do was replace the air inside that selection with water. After cleaning up the edges of the moat, it's time to revisit the front of the castle and finish off all the little details that we didn't get before. We need to add some plants, lamps, banners, and a path going out the front. Once those details are done, the castle is complete. One last thing to do is to add a few trees around the area. I didn't have tons of trees, just a few here and there to kind of help with the scenery. Be sure to share your thoughts on this castle in the comments below.